Live.
We are.
What's up, Weekend Warriors, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Dojo. We are happy to have you here. As you may have noticed, we are joined by a new face today, and this is Spider-Ben, and he's going to actually be filling in for me every once in a while I'm out of the country, which, by the way, is happening on Wednesday, so I'll try to update y'all with all the cool stuff that goes on. There is a lot of boring stuff that goes into it, too. But tonight, we are covering a favorite of all of ours, which happens to be the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And tonight, we're just covering the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess for now, do you guys want to start on perhaps a synopsis of the film, or what kicked it off, or what sets it? What do you guys want to start with on this film?
Let's let Ben decide on that.
Like, what's your jumping off point?
Here, what did you say? I couldn't hear you just now.
Pardon? Okay.
My internet's acting up. Yeah, I think my internet's being bad. All right, what
essentially, where do you want to start talking about these movies? Do you want to start on like a brief summary of the story, or is there something, or did you want to talk about like maybe why this particular version of Spider-Man means more to you than perhaps other versions?
The one about why it means more, probably.
So you're the new one here. Why don't we let you take point on this, and you tell us a little bit about why this particular Spider-Man is special to you.
All right, can I go over all the movies, like just in general about why the Spider-Man means to me, or should I stick to the first one since that's what we're doing?
So let's start with just in general.
Unless like the entire series as a whole, it contains the reason you like it. Which is fair. We can do that.
The reason this one means the most to me is probably in the sense that it's really relatable a little bit more than the other ones, and it's very, very accurate to the older comics and stuff, and it's also very nostalgic for a lot of people, and including me. So I don't know. It's just.
How about you, El Chizo? What is your?
I have to concur. It was the first exposure I got to Spider-Man. Before this movie, I was aware that Spider-Man existed, but had no access to any of the comics or anything. Probably for the best, because at the age I was at when that movie came out, the comics were, more targeted towards adults.
Right.
But when I watched this film, this is what kind of got me into superheroes, aside from Superman, and. Right. I really appreciated sort of how they could mix campiness and intensity.
Yeah.
For
definitely.
me, I was already a huge Spider-Man fan by this point. My uncle had every single issue up to of the original Amazing Spider-Man by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and I had read through all those multiple times between 1999 when I was 4 and 2002 when the movie came out. I've also watched the Fox Kids cartoon of the Amazing of Spider-Man and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and all those Saban.
Oh my! I remember that show.
Yeah, and so having that knowledge, just having the first live-action Spider-Man movie being almost 100% accurate within character and spirit. Of course, the time period was different, but that's a given. It was great. I couldn't name anything wrong with it. It kept the campiness of it and serious tone of it too, and leveled it out perfectly, from what I remember.
I have to agree. It really was an excellent first shot. Now, if we can take a step into something that's really kind of subjective, but is important to me, despite not having any experience making costumes, is the importance of the costume design in this.
Yes.
He dropped. I think his internet. dropped him out. Well, we'll wait for him to join back in. So let's talk about the costumes of the original trilogy real quick, because I think that may have painted a lot of people.
Killed himself.
Huh?
His internet died for a moment.
Okay, doke.
Yeah.
So I want to talk mostly about, like, the Spider-Man costume was great, but I want to talk mostly about the Green Goblin suit.
Yes.
And
All right,
There
we're talking about the Green Goblin suit now.
okay.
So I don't want to point fingers, but we do know that Marvel has a history with Toei.
Toei,
And,
yeah. Oh, Ben, in
and
case you're not aware, Toei is the company that created Power Rangers in Japan.
I know about him. But thank you.
We're going to be covering an interesting aspect that ties into the Green Goblin suit.
now our audience has
Yeah.
heard this before. You may have heard about it, being a Spider-Man fan. So, as a Spider-Man fan, I assume you're aware of the Japanese Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. And
Believe it
I
or
don't
not,
even know how to.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
probably have heard then that
Yeah.
there was a deal between the company that made that version of Spider-Man and Marvel for a character exchange between the two companies. So, like, Toei would have been able to create shows about Captain America and Spider-Man. Those were the characters that they specifically wanted. And what what Marvel wanted to do was essentially bring one of the Sentai over here. He wanted to do Sun
Sometimes
Vulcan.
the Power Rangers is in Japan, by the way.
I apologize. I should be clarifying that.
That's
But
all right.
when we come to this movie, this Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, we notice something very peculiar, especially for me and Kenny, who are seasoned tokusatsu veterans. Something very peculiar about the Green Goblin suit. It is very reminiscent of costume design choices that were being made at the time for Kamen Rider, which is sort of the grandfather series that allowed the Super Sentai to exist and subsequently Power Rangers.
Yes. Like, you notice how Green Goblin's suit is very plastic armor looking and kind of has that cheesy Power Ranger villain type look to it? Like, the villains that wear, like, the plastic helmets, it's actually their face, and their mouths don't move, but they speak through it anyways, kind of thing.
Yeah, I know about that. I love that when that happens.
Yes. Now, that to me just screamed tokusatsu, and as a costume design, coming back to it now as an adult who rediscovered their love for this kind of superhero, I'm sitting here just scratching my head wondering how the hell I missed that.
Yeah. Especially since at the same time as that came out, Power Rangers Wild Force was running, and they had a villain in there who had basically the same structure of suit in there, where his helmet was plastic chrome. His body armor was literally leather and plastic armor put over.
Jindrax.
Yeah, and the Green Goblin suit was made the same way.
Of course, now this suit design really works. These suit designs relied a lot on the computer generation technology of the time. They did exist as a standalone suit, but you could definitely tell that they had to work shifting between the person in costume and CG. Yeah. And I was wondering, as you as a person, looking back on it today, did you notice the transition terribly?
In the older Spider-Man movies, in like the first one specifically. I mean, just since that's the one we're talking about, it is a lot more noticeable than in say 2 or 3 because the CGI was not as good back then. But that also kind of ties into what you were talking about. The Spider-Man suit, since it kind of looks computer generated itself, so I think that helped a lot with when they switch it, because obviously a real person can't be swinging around and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have to agree.
The Spider-Man suit is very three-dimensional. Like, it isn't like this where it's just the whole thing's printed on the suit like most of the comic book ones are. It's actually the webs stand out and the spider stands out. And on the back, I can never tell if that's actually a separate layer of spandex that's stitched in with it, or if that's actually standing out over it also. Because in that one, it doesn't really look like it's standing out.
It's probably like a very thin layer or something.
Okay.
I don't know though. Don't quote me on that.
Kenny brings up a good point too. If any one of us were to get bitten or stung by a radioactive arachnid today, becoming a superhero would be way easier, just starting with getting the suit, because there are a million different no questions asked printing companies that will print a suit for you.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for every version of Peter Parker that had to do this shit.
Did they ever elaborate how Peter Parker made his suit in the 2002 movie?
Not at all. He was just like, okay, I'm drawing something, and then he's instantly swinging after he's the human spider for a while.
Now,
he went from fucking gym sweats to master seamstress.
Can we assume that the transition of him graduating high school and after getting bit and him becoming Spider-Man was like maybe like 2 to 3 years?
I don't know about that. That actually is very interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, they're vague on a lot of details there.
In Spider-Man 2, they mentioned that it was 2 years since Uncle Ben died. She said like come August or something like that.
Well, we could assume, in that sense, that could be anything. We could assume that
either Spider-Man 2 is 2 years after, or it's like 1 year after one, or something like that. You know,
we assuming each movie took place in their year released, we could assume that everything from the beginning of the movie up to the Uncle Ben, or up to the Uncle Ben death took place in 2002, sometime in there, and then the graduation took place sometime between that, and then we could assume that the transition between making the suit could have taken another half a year, realistically. So essentially,
especially because he's poor.
Yeah, that's another thing. Where did he get the money for the suit?
He only got $100 from the wrestling thing too. So
yeah, I mean, and this was before, like, he had the suit finished before he found JJ. So
yeah. So maybe he did some
before he found Mr. Aziz for his pizza time too.
And this seems to be a trope in superhero media in general, is that it doesn't matter how much money you have, as long as you're intelligent, you can make anything super cool.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just like I don't know if they really elaborate. I guess they do elaborate on how he creates a suit in Iron Man, considering he's rich, but also how does he know how to do that in the first place? Because it's totally different than making weapons.
Because it's professionally made.
I guess so.
Yeah. Because I mean, well,
what if you're a contractor? And he's like, just no questions. I'm anonymous. It was an eBay contractor. I mean, they had internet for this then.
Yeah, but it's like that was back on the days when you had to like find a way to make the interaction happen in real life on eBay. It wasn't just as simple as like PayPal and then mail it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if we're talking like the original films too, did anyone else like not make the connection that those bombs were supposed to look like pumpkins off of the Green Goblin?
I knew that.
I knew it because I read the comics, but if I didn't, I would not know.
Right.
Yeah, because like, I mean,
the toys even said they were called pumpkin bombs.
Yeah, the toys did. But going in, if you had no prior knowledge of the comics like me, you would have just thought these were just cool little ore bombs. And then I started reading later, and found out, oh, well, that makes sense. But that costume looks nothing like it did in the movie.
Yeah, Green Goblin is inaccurate to the comics. He doesn't fly on some mechanical broomstick from like the first appearance. This movie's terrible.
Yeah. That, and something, an important point those three movies never really confront. They might have, with later on, but the idea of the Hobgoblin is never addressed in any of them.
There was an Easter egg in Spider-Man 3 of like a golden mask or like
Yeah.
silver. It's kind of hard to tell, but they never actually elaborate on any of that.
There was a theory back after Spider-Man 2 had just came out that Harry Osborn would have become the Hobgoblin.
Honestly, that would have kind of been pretty cool.
That would have made, because they called him the New Goblin in some of the toy
I don't know
commercials.
if they said that in any like movie, but they said it in the definitely on toys and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's,
back in it was in 2004, 2005 when I was my elementary school kids and we were obsessed over that movie. We were constantly theorizing about what would happen in 3. Before all we had was that Sandman would be in it and a few other mystery, and that Harry Osborn would be a bad guy in it. And one of our theories was he would have been the Hobgoblin. But this is before any of us knew anything about the Hobgoblin's identity other than the Hobgoblin existed.
Yeah, and like by the time 3 came out, I was already reading the comics, so I was like as much of a part of that as anyone. But if you look at like the first film, the early 2000s just seemed to be an era where you had to glean as much lore as you could from peripheral media like toy commercials and like pack-in extras.
That's kind of how it is today with like all the new Lego sets that come out for movies. You can just look at them and be like, "Hey, there's gonna be that guy." Unless it's just Lego clickbait.
Did you know that the Spider-Man merchandising logo, the one that was used on the back of every toy, gaming, whatever for the Spider-Man Raimi films and stuff, was the original pitched logo for the movie?
I believe it.
I don't know if I remember which one you're talking about. Are you talking about the one that's like his face and it's like half of it?
I'll pull it up. I know.
All right.
But I do believe that they would have pulled something like that, just because wasted assets is wasted money.
Images.
And that's a cynical thing to say, but it really is kind of a creative way of thinking. To be able to use something that was pitched that didn't make it into the final product and still somehow find a way to incorporate.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
That was the logo that they had originally shown in the E3 teaser trailer.
It's the cover of the game.
Yeah.
Except sometimes it has Green Goblin reflected in his eye.
It was the original teaser trailer was Webb's. The announcement teaser trailer was Webb's and concept art merging around with a few blurry images of them with the screen test Alex Ross suit that was just a spandex suit of the black and red design that Alex Ross created. It looked more like just a low budget cosplay kind of thing for the screen testing, and it was just flipping through concept art and all that stuff, and then the title came in for Spider-Man.
I just realized I'm the only one not wearing a spider. I'm just representing my favorite ice cream is all, not sponsored.
Oh, no, that's still pretty awesome.
Did you get the free ice cream cone?
No, I just happened to get this because I live in the home state of Ben and Jerry's.
Okay.
I live in the home state of Ben.
Nice.
Well, unfortunately, that means you have to die in the first issue.
Oh. Technically the 15th of Amazing Fantasy. So.
Okay. As far as the merchandising stuff go, do you have a favorite? While we're on the topic of merchandising, do you have a favorite merch that was made or created for the first movie?
I don't know if I do have an exact favorite. I like a lot of the stuff. I like the old costumes because they're really cool, even though I didn't have any until 3. I like a lot of the figures. I have some of those. I'll have to walk out of here to get some, but I do have some.
Oh, yeah. Feel free to if you want to bring them up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'll be right back. I'll have to sit down my computer. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll fill this space real quick because I don't have any of the toys I used to have. You go ahead.
All right. I'll be back just 1 second.
Yep. What I had for the movie growing up was actually. Do you remember the movie Walkie Talkies? You know,
Yes, I
with
do.
like Spider-Man was it was like a Spider-Man figure was one. Nice.
Yes.
And the Green Goblin was the other. I lost them somewhere. They probably would have stopped working. They were shitty walkie-talkies, but I love those things, man. I had one Spider-Man figure before that, and I can't remember what I did with it, but it was like the symbiote going nuts,
Okay.
and it only had like 5 points of articulation, and that was like neck, shoulders, hips.
Yeah.
And I don't. That was in no way tied to the film, but I knew it was Spider-Man because of the. It was like a Spider-Man thing because of the spider on its chest. Oh, here he is.
All right.
All right, I'm back, boys. All right, so I like a lot of. I have a figure from Spider-Man 1, but I can't find it right now. So here's one from 2. It's basically same design generally. So
Yeah. Does
I
yours
like.
have the magnets on the bottom?
No, it doesn't have the magnets. I have a
Huh?
few of these type of figures. This one doesn't. There's one that has a hand that's like this, and then you can move it like that.
Yeah.
I know there's one that has magnets that's stuck. That's like this, and then you can.
I that funny thing, the
Which one is?
Spider-Man figures from 2004, they each came with an attack, like a city billboard or lamp pole or something that you
Oh,
could magnet.
I have a lamp pole. I can go get that again if you want.
I mean,
If
if
you
you want
feel
to.
like it, I mean, we've got no problem with it. Uh, we just don't want you to like ruin your knees getting up, standing down if you don't
No, it's
feel it. That
here. It's all
you
right.
One
we all
interesting,
kind of glazed over this one toy, and I think it's an important toy to cover.
yeah,
How many of us
I
here,
also have this.
'cause I know I did, had the web shooters?
yes,
I wasn't even alive then, so no. But I remember having some type of thing when 3 came out. Maybe my brother that's older than me had some, but I would not have any idea where they are now.
I remember my birthday present that year. I know it was Easter. It was Easter. My Easter basket present that year was in 2002 was the Spider-Man web slingers. It came with the interchangeable bottle.
Oh
Oh
yeah, it had like a
yeah.
water bottle, and
Yeah.
then there was like
And
an
then there
option
was
for
like,
Silly
silly
string.
string
yeah, silly string, and then you could.
and
There was like a
parents
giant,
eat
And
it
then
up.
thing, and then I was actually the smart one. I put the silly string can inside of my arm, and then shot webs out of that to be accurate to the movie.
yeah,
Yeah, I had like that, and then I got like a little cereal prize, which was just like a bracelet with a water pump on it that
yes, I
sat in your
remember.
palm, and I had that.
Yeah, I had that. I had around when Spider-Man 3 came out, there was like some Sandman and Venom, and I'm pretty sure there was other ones of like these little guys that you would squish and you could fill them up with water and they would squirt water out of them.
Yeah,
I don't know if they did that for other movies, but yeah, I also had one of the web shooters that had water.
hmm
Yeah, it, and that was kind of like that was part of the end of the era of pack-in cereal toys because I know they still exist, but
Hmm.
I have not seen any worth like that strike that same level of oh my god, I got it that I
yeah.
got back in the day. Like we all had the weird ass because every cereal had a spoon prize at one point or another.
Your color changing
Right. Well, off topic,
smell
my favorite
spoon.
spoon prize was the Revenge of the Sith um lightsaber spoons that lit up when you.
I know I had the same one, and they always die.
Oh,
And
that's sad. I love Revenge of the Sith. I don't have any of those lightsabers though, but
You can get them off of eBay. I'm probably going to be buying them soon
yeah,
too. Just
I'm probably gonna buy
just
some.
for the sake of like having it, you know, and I think it's fine every once in a while to live in your little nostalgia bubble.
uh,
The difficult thing is like, especially for me, is I get so wrapped up in nostalgia, and because I've only done G1 Transformers rebooted a million fucking times.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
But the tricky part is to rise above the nostalgia sometimes.
Of course.
And it's like you will all like that. The one you had from your childhood will always be your favorite, and no one I think will ever argue that it should be your favorite. But I find that it's for me personally, it gets difficult growing up to see these things rebooted so many times and still appreciate them. I try to. I trust me, I try to. Like, there's lots of things I like about the Avengers films. But I don't
For
connect
example,
with the
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
I don't really like the movie, but I love the Vulture.
Yeah, I love the Vulture too. I feel like he was probably the best part of that movie.
Yeah, I have to agree. He was probably
Mysterio is probably going to be the best part of Far From Home, also, and the Elemental.
Definitely, but that's probably going to be
Spider-Man. His villains are going to be the best part of it, not necessarily him or everything else.
They might not necessarily be the best villains, but they'll be the best part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that seems to be the way it is with a lot of Spider-Man media, now that I think about it, because Spider-Man, being who he is, has such like a basic concept for his character. He is a guy with spider powers. So occasionally, in order to re-grab audience interest, Marvel has to do things like give Peter a new costume or introduce a new villain.
That has technology, yep.
Yeah.
Introduce villains that always have personal connection, but as long as it's done right, that's good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the one thing the Raimi movies did right with that was the personal connection.
Yeah. I would never take away the personal connection from Norman Osborn.
In 3, for example, each villain had some form of personal connection.
Even Sandman was done well in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
even though the retcon might be weird.
Guys, if you think, I still question this scene to this day. In the final arc of the final battle of 2002, when Norman takes the mask off and reveals it's him, and he's trying to beg Spider-Man to help him. Was that a game to get the Blighter up to kill him, or did he actually mean it?
I feel like Sam Raimi was trying to make it like a game because in the comics, Green Goblin and Norman Osborn are kind of the same thing. They are like insane, but it's not like Hulk and Bruce Banner where it's like I'm literally a different person now. It's like it's kind of probably blended together, where he's like he might have at first been wanting him to help him, but then like Goblin's controlling his body through him or something to make him do that. I don't know. That's something I like about these movies, that they leave a lot up to the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. Like, my personal interpretation of that scene was that he was both entirely honest and entirely dishonest because of the psychosis induced by the chemicals.
Yeah.
So he could have genuinely been asking for help, but he had a psychological compulsion to purge this fixation.
Okay. That's kind of what I get from it too.
Yeah, every time I rewatch it, it kind of stays in between. Like every time I lean to one side, like it just goes back to the middle. It's kind of hard to figure it out, you know.
Something I really want to touch base on, out of anything, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson and how they portray the Bugle.
Yes.
Best. And the only.
By the way, the Daily Bugle was the Daily Bugle. Yeah, the Daily Bugle was Spider-Man's thing.
Yeah.
If you ever think about it, the Daily Bugle the Daily Bugle, despite being a slander rag, follows the laws of ethical journalism more strictly than the Daily Planet and Superman.
How are you so right on this?
So, yes, the Daily Planet is actually less ethical than the company run by J. Jonah Jameson. And when I
Hey,
found this out that he was technically in the right, I was like, damn it.
hey, it's not slander though.
It's
If it's on
liable.
print, it's liable.
It's liable. Oh man. And you know what? Despite the fact that he was a giant dick, you got to give J. Jonah Jameson some props. He was ballsy. He sat, and he knew that no one was gonna touch him. He sat in his office in a no smoking area, just sucking down those nasty cheap cigars.
That's actually something I'd like to go on to is something
Actually cares though. There was a scene.
Yeah, that's
Spider-Man.
exactly what. Well, in Spider-Man 1, what I wanted to touch on too is when Green Goblin breaks in and he's like, "Who's the guy that takes the pictures of Spider-Man?" J. Jonah Jameson willingly protects Peter, knowing that he's literally right outside that room.
Yeah.
Like that's something really.
So he does
I don't
care
know. It just intrigues me a lot.
at least.
And in the comics, he has been shown to care about Peter just as much as he has been shown to really not care about Peter.
Right.
Yeah. And what was interesting, he was, wrong.
There's even been issues of the original comics where Jameson would have Peter go with him on business trips, like personally, and he would kind of pass it off as, "Nah, you're just here for the job." But if you actually pay attention to the dialogue and how he speaks about him when Peter's not around or not in hearing sight, he actually cares about him, kind of like a son in a way.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you're supposed to. I think that's the whole dynamic with Jonas's character. Is it's supposed to be a love-hate relationship,
right?
Because like he's sort of supposed to be the point of stability. No matter what happens to Peter or anyone else in this series, you can rely on J. Jonah Jameson to be himself.
Now, what is your favorite line of dialogue with Jameson from that movie?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Personally, that's hard. He has a lot of really good dialogue. I probably like pack your things, get out of my building a lot. Or when Betty Brant says your wife lost a checkbook and he says thanks for the good news. I like that a lot.
Mine, I have two. My first one is if we can get a picture of Julia Roberts in a thong, we necessarily can get a picture of this bozo. And then you serious?
Yeah. That's the
I haven't printed a retraction in 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
That's another thing too, is like he somehow drives forward just how like he actually is an example of why with great power there must come great responsibility. Because let's face it, especially today, the power that media has over the general public, specifically news media, can give someone, especially an editor, the power to paint someone's public image, to change public opinion.
Yeah.
And
what I really hate about the new Spider-Man movies, the MCU, they got rid of the whole newspaper outlet thing, and they try to make Peter what's the word?
Like YouTuber or something. I don't know. In the newest ones,
they made him a STEM Academy kid, basically. A STEM student.
Okay.
And the thing is, it would have still worked for him becoming a photographer because media, especially in 2019, news media is corrupt.
Yeah.
And they could have
honestly,
dabbled some into politics of that.
That's the thing about it's because newspaper was starting to decline in 2001, and then the first one came out in 2002. But it doesn't have to necessarily be newspapers in the
right.
If they were to do it in the new ones. It could be anything.
I think the thing is, like, there are reliable news sources out there, but the tricky part is you never are certain you're getting the whole story. And I think the relevance of what J. Jonah Jameson was doing at that time is still relevant today.
Yeah.
That you're not getting the whole story. You have to.
Something I noticed. If you remember, it was in The Amazing Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They never directly showed him working for the Bugle, but it mentioned he did.
He was like, I sent some more photos into the Bugle or something. And then in the first trailer, I remember my brother was like, "Whoa, follow the Daily Bugle on Twitter. It says it's on a billboard." And I was like, "What's Twitter?" And then I remember that specifically. I don't know why. From like 2013 or something though.
That's right.
Yeah.
Twitter was becoming huge.
Yeah, they could have done that in the MCU, because in the Amazing Spider-Man verse, how his version of working for the Bugle was he submitted his photos online.
Online, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a digital.
And in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, I don't know about the first one, you can take pictures of stuff, and J. Jonah Jameson will like email you, and he'll be like, "Thank you for your pictures" or something. I'm more used to him being like, I'll give you 100 for this amazing photo. You know, I don't like nice J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, unless he is overtly being a dick, it doesn't feel right.
I'll give you $100, 300. That's outrageous. Done.
Let's cover some other cast members. There's subtly throughout the first movie. We had Harry Osborn,
who went on to be a very that actor went on to be very successful.
Oh yes.
Like most recently that I can recall was The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, in which he appeared.
Oh, I remember him playing Tommy Wiseau and getting an Oscar for that.
Yeah, but it's like have you seen the Netflix exclusive Ballad of Buster scruggs?
I have not.
So.
It is a Western. It's it's kind of a goofy Western. It goes from being goofy to kind of dark and serious to being kind of real.
Right.
And he shows up in I forget what they call the story. It was like about a bank robbery, and that actor, whose name I am struggling to remember,
Franco,
was playing a bank robber who robs a bank literally in the middle of nowhere with a well out front that's labeled bad water. There's no one coming to this damn bank, but there's money in it. He manages to get away with a bag full of cash. And the old banker, that the teller, starts running out after him, covered in fucking metal cookware, so that the bullets bounce off him. Misses both his shots with his double barrel, and then beans the poor guy in the head with the butt of the gun. It's an excellent part. It's an excellent part of the film. I recommend you watch Ballad of Buster Scruggs. You'll be singing the songs and everything.
All right. Yeah, James Franco's career was pretty good after that movie. Let's see, who else did we have? We had
Kirsten
Elizabeth
Dunst.
Banks was Betty Brant.
Betty
Brant.
Kirsten Dunst is Mary Jane, and then Rosemary Harris was Aunt May. Yeah.
Fun fact: you know she played Peter Pan back in the 70s.
Really?
No. Whoa.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll pull it up.
Speaking of Kirsten Dunst, I've not heard anything about her in a very long time.
I think she's like trash talked some of the new Spider-Man movies.
Oh yeah, she definitely is.
A while ago. But see, like, just so you know how much I know about her is that I didn't know she had blonde hair. So
that was a good. They managed to make that look pretty natural to my eyes.
Yeah, really.
Because like I've
in
been
the first movie, it's more Yeah, in the first movie it's more red, and in the second and third it's kind of like orange
like
color.
like a reddish blonde.
Yeah.
And dang, that's actually really good. Uh,
Well,
props to the makeup artists.
Mhm.
yeah.
Because I've known a few redheads, and
Wow.
no
I
shit.
never. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, so we know that Kirsten. So now we know Kirsten Dunst is kind of keeping her opinions
Oh
known
yeah.
about the MCU, I guess.
I think Tobey Maguire said something about that recently too. I think he said he didn't see all of them, but it was something like, I don't know. You kind of can't say I hate all the new ones and mine are the best. I
Right.
think he said that he like respects all the new people or something like that. I don't know
Yeah, he did.
exactly what he
And he
said.
said he'd be open to playing a superhero again.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people talking about wanting to have him as Green Lantern, which I think would be pretty cool. And then there's been the thing about wanting him to be Uncle Ben for a while, which he's not really that old.
Yeah, I
So
think
I
he's
don't.
gonna have to put on a few more years before he
Honestly,
can
I don't
do
think
Uncle
Uncle
Ben.
Ben even exists in the MCU.
At this point,
Yeah,
I don't think he should.
yeah, we've already moved past that point in the story, I think.
Really,
Um,
I feel like if in Civil War he everything went exactly as it did in that movie, and then he was like, "Oh, and my uncle died." I feel like nobody would care.
Right.
yeah, I do believe that they should work in the traditional Uncle Ben quote
Uh
somewhere.
huh.
And I
Literally, like
think they kind of did in a way with Homecoming when
Yeah.
Iron Man's when Tony
when
Stark
there's
said,
nothing, if you're
"If
nothing
you
without, yeah,
suit, you shouldn't have it."
yeah,
And I
Uh-huh.
think that's about the closest we're gonna get to the "great power, great responsibility" quote.
Yeah.
mhm,
But that's a good spin on it. It's not rehashing the same phrase, but it's getting the same message across.
Also,
mhm.
isn't it funny how isn't it uncanny how much Tom Holland looks like Tobey Maguire?
Just about to say, yes, he looks really a lot like Tobey Maguire. You know, I think the fans should take on what a lot of the actors say, where it's like, I get that people like the other ones better, and I personally like Raimi ones a lot better. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that just because the Raimi ones are not the newest thing, they're like, no, that's terrible. I hate that. It's
Yeah,
stupid.
they're
And then
I
they're
think it's
like,
because of
who's
this
Uncle
right
big,
now
Ben?
it's okay
I,
to like
yeah,
different things.
and I think it's because of this big converging of all these superhero movies into their respective universes.
Hmm.
Yep.
Because at the time, that wasn't really thought of.
The average moviegoer is just that's Spider-Man. That's not Spider-Man from Earth 92567 7-Eleven store place thing. Yeah, now a lot
Speaking
of
of
people think.
7-Eleven and Spider-Man, does anyone remember those little candy canisters that had only the top forehead of Spider-Man on it and Green Goblin on it? And they would
I don't know
get
about
them
that.
at like 7-Eleven, Toys R Us, and all that.
Oh, I miss Toys R Us.
Oh, you hit me in a place where it hurts.
I
Yeah.
don't have I've never really been to a 7-Eleven, so I couldn't say about that stuff.
Okay.
But that is
Yeah, I
interesting.
didn't go. I had not been into a 7-Eleven throughout my entire childhood. I didn't step into one until years later when I had gone to Japan. Okay,
You
and
should
it's a
have been to
totally
7-Eleven in 2007 when they had all the Spider-Man 3 collector's cups
Oh, I wish.
yeah,
that were
yeah.
that were that had the you moved it and it would move.
Hmm.
The flicker, the
Yeah.
flicker cups. Yeah, I remember those. My biggest memory, if we're talking just about like snacks and canisters and containers and stuff, was there was like a lot. I think they brought them back. It was a line of like, it was juice, but it wasn't juice, and it like the heads of
Hmm.
it were different characters from different
Yeah.
media.
Yep.
Yes.
And Pez.
Still have
I don't
those.
Yeah.
know if they made Raimi movies
I
Pez,
go to
but
7-Eleven and
I
they still
literally,
have the juices with the heads on them.
Yes.
yep, at gas stations I go to, they have that.
I'm about tempted to buy one next time I go to a 7-Eleven. Just for
It
old
won't
times.
taste good, just so you know.
I liked them. I really enjoyed them as a kid.
You liked them as a kid. Okay. Like it was like me getting Surge
I'm
for the
still
first time in years.
curious to try it now, and if you want, I will make a video on it.
Do it.
Review. Character ahead review.
Yeah.
Unboxing.
What is this? No. Oh man, there was all kinds of I remember when I was like 4 or 5, they had like these Spider-Man pajamas that came out, and it wasn't like official Spider-Man anything, because it was just like a red shirt with Spider-Man's like image printed on it with the show logo, and then in between the arms there was webbing sewn in.
Oh my gosh, is your house like having a giant tornado going through it? Ooh. Oh, I remember stuff like that. I remember a lot of the older 2000s Spider-Man stuff, like the old figures, old like Spider-Man classics figures, old. There's a lot of merchandise like that. I love it.
This one's a bit off, but it's still Marvel, and it came
Mhm.
in 2003.
I got this right next to me. This thing from like I don't know what year, but it had Spider-Man and Hulk with it, and they had like the little small guys that.
Oh, is that Imaginext?
I have a lot of Imaginext like DC stuff. I don't think I ever got the Marvel stuff. I think this is like Superhero Squad or something, like the show that was in like 2009 or something that never had Spider-Man.
Speaking of Superhero Squad, we're going to open
Mhm.
Marvel discussion now, by the way.
All right.
Yeah, there was an episode where all the captains for each country came in, and that was pretty much fun fact. Chaz already knows this because I talked to him about it. But do you remember the episode of Superhero Squad when all the captains had joined in and Wolverine became Captain Canada?
I very vaguely remember
Well, that
most
whole
stuff about
episode
Superhero
was a
Squad.
homage to the Japanese show that Marvel had created with Toei called Battle Fever J, which was within the Japanese Power Rangers series called Super Sentai.
Now, for those who don't know, Captain Canada is actually a non-Marvel superhero that has been well established.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, well,
instead of
the whole concept of the captains came from Battle Fever J, because you had Battle Japan, Battle America, which was called Miss Liberty, because they basically they made a female version of Captain America, who you would see later in the comics after Battle Fever J. They had actually, I'm gonna screen share real quick so that way I can show you.
Now, while he's doing that, I would like to bring this up. So that Battle Fever J was actually the series that was supposed to introduce Captain America to Japanese audiences. He was supposed to be like kind of like the you know how in Power Rangers occasionally a sixth ranger will show up? Captain America was supposed to fill that role, but ultimately Toei decided that was not the direction that they were going to go.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Battle Fever J. You have Battle Japan, Battle America, or Miss Liberty.
Battle France, Battle Cossack, and Battle Kenya.
Yep.
I would not have guessed
France, right? The blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then black was
and this would have, and this is the first Super Sentai in Japan to have a giant robot, believe it or not. So if they had gone through with bringing Captain America over, then we would have had not only a Japanese Spider-Man that had a giant robot, but a Japanese Captain America that had a giant fucking robot.
Oh my gosh, the versus thing that people would have made.
Yes. Also, Toei is also a creator of another superhero, which you may recognize a similarity between its suit and a current Marvel hero within the cinematic universe.
Mhm.
You know what I'm doing, Chaz, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so does this suit concept look familiar then?
A little bit. I can't put my finger on it. Isn't this what you were talking about like something about Green Goblin earlier, or am I getting
No.
confused?
What I'm saying is
The chest flannels kind of remind me
the
of that.
Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Ant-Man.
Oh my gosh, it does. It does.
All the way
Yeah.
down to the chest pattern, the belt.
The belt with the red in them. Yeah, it does.
See, Marvel as a company liked these designs so much that even though they never actually brought any characters over, they would create characters that were heavily inspired by it, like the Beetle.
Right.
Mhm. Ultimate Beetle shares a very strong resemblance to this. Here, let me pull it up.
So yes, this is exactly what am I putting my nails? I'm making videos. But yes, see, Marvel as a company just created lots of great costume designs based off of this. And I think in turn, what they did with the costume would feed back into Toei to inspire more and more outlandish costumes.
And by the
Lately,
way, Stan Lee had a whole lot of influence on that too, because he's openly said several times how he's a fan of tokusatsu heroes.
This is Ultimate Beetle.
yes, exactly. Now,
Mhm.
Ultimate Beetle actually gives me a very specific vibe from one of the most popular rider shows out there. I think it's second most viewed next to Deno, which would be Kamen Rider Kabuto. And what's
Mhm.
so yes, like Kenny was saying, Stan Lee was a huge fan of tokusatsu heroes, and he really took that idea and he ran with it in his own series. Especially when you consider that Ant-Man would later become Giant Man.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you
Oh yeah.
who don't know
I remember when Giant Man wasn't like 100 feet tall.
yeah, and so for those of you who probably haven't figured it out by now, not only was Ant-Man supposed to be a costume reference to Kamen Rider, but later on when he
Kind
became
of like a mix of Fies
But later on,
and
when he became Giant Man, he was a reference to one of these guys. This is Ultraman, who
Oh,
is
I love Ultraman.
yes,
I
okay.
love Ultraman.
So then you're fully aware. Giant hero reference.
Mhm.
And that was sort of the interesting thing is
his forms.
Stan Lee took a different approach with it, whereas like Giant Man had to sort of force himself to grow bigger.
Mhm. Instead of like.
Sorry, my screen is kind of frozen.
That's cool. Why don't you drop screen share and then we'll come back to this and we'll just talk it out for like another couple of minutes because we've been here nearly an hour.
Mhm.
But essentially, you can see how strongly Marvel has been inspired by Toei's work in the past. And in turn, if you go and watch some of the Toei and Toho series today, you will see the inspiration that they got from Stan Lee. So you've got these great, big, colorful characters, just like Stan Lee loves to do, with crazy, quippy catchphrases and outrageous attitudes. I'm not such a big fan of the current series that Toei are making right now, but I have hope that it'll turn around in the Reiwa era.
Oh, sorry, my computer was dying, so I guess it was lagging a bit. I had to plug my charger in.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
Well, I think that was a excellent video. I think now's a good time to close things off.
All right.
And next week, according to my understanding, these guys are going to try to cover Spider-Man 2 from the Sam Raimi trilogy. I will not be able to participate then, as I will not be in the country, and time scheduling will be a little wonky. So thank you, everyone who decided to tune in. Remember, you can check us out on Twitter at @weekend_dojo. That's all lowercase. And, hit us up there. We'll try to keep you updated. And thank you, Ben, for being an amazing host on your first night. And as always, we will see you next week. We will see. Well, these guys will see you next week, Weekend Warriors. And for a little rock and roll wisdom before we sign off, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you go digging for neon and you come up chrome, you're gonna shine on all the same.
Nice. I like that.
I like that too. Yeah.
All right. See you later, Weekend Warriors.
Stay more fun, everybody. Yeah, you got a closing quote, Ben?
You will work on it.
I?
Yes.